This is our most loved products. This is the stuff that I use all the time to solve problems which, and if these products didn't exist, I would be in some trouble. So to some extent, the efficacy of my ministrations, I guess, on people is determined a lot by the stuff that we get to use, that other companies have created, really interesting products which help me to solve problems. And if these didn't exist, I would have a lot of trouble doing my job. So a big thank you to everyone I'm about to mention who's actually created these products, which allow us to basically get people on bikes more comfortably and faster. So I think I've got 9 here, but we'll see how we go. We'll see how many of these match up with what the bloke of the UK said. I bet some of them overlap because we would probably have similar experiences here.
Well, you love speed plays and he doesn't like speed plays.
Oh, is that right?
But maybe that's a debate for another time. So tell us what your number 1 is.
Number 1 has got to be SMP saddles. Now I've got one.
Oh, the Eagle Beak.
The Eagle Beak. I've got the SMP Blaster behind me on my bike, and I've actually forgotten to bring another one here to have as a prop. But SMP saddles, look, I now go through a lot of the Nimbus as one of my favourite SMPs of all time, the Dynamic, the Light 209, the Blaster, to a lesser extent the Glider and the Former. These things have just been like massive game changers for me, getting people comfortable on bikes. They are, in my opinion, the best designed saddles in the world. And that's a pretty big call. I wouldn't say that they suit everybody. There's no such thing as a saddle which suits everyone. But they are fantastic for the right person and under the right circumstances. And they're shaped like the bottom of a human pelvis, which I think is a pretty good general designed parameter to start with. So SMP saddles, look, if you find the right one, there's almost always an SMP which is really comfortable, doesn't give you numbness, doesn't give you hot spots, allows you to rotate your pelvis forward. They are very well designed seats.
Can I ask you a quick question then? If you're struggling with the saddle right now and you think, I wouldn't mind trying the SMP, how could you very quickly put yourself in as a candidate for an SMP?
It's not an easy question. Annoyingly, I have yet to find a way of guessing which seat will be correct for a person without actually sitting them on the seat. So you can measure your sit bones, you can look at the SMP website, you can go, well, this one's for the wide people and this one's for the narrow people and all that sort of stuff. And all of that goes out the window when we consider the curvature of the bottom of your pelvis, which is individually variable and highly variable between people. And there's no way of knowing any of that until you actually physically sit on them and try them. I wish there was a better way, but your best bet with an SMP, because they are quite expensive seats, is to try and find a shop that actually physically sells them. Take your bike in and try and sit on a couple of them and get a gauge for the feel of the curvature of them, if possible.
And then buy one online.
And then buy one online. People do. Don't do that.
No, don't do that.
No, don't do that. Support your local bike shop. And look, if you're getting really stuck, find a bike fitter who has a whole bunch of them. I have a massive drawer of SMPs with I've probably got 30 at any given time in my big drawer, and sit on a whole bunch of them on different angles in different positions and try and find the right one. It is not easy, but when you find the right one, and there's usually one that's correct for most people, they are brilliant seats. So big ups for SMP.
Number 2.
Number 2. It's another seat.
Ooh.
The SQ Lab saddle. These things are like polar opposite, different to the SMP. Now, which kind of sounds funny because I've just spent a couple of minutes explaining how good the SMP shape is. If your bottom of your pelvis has a particularly unusual curvature, and it doesn't suit any SMP, this saddle is really, really, really good at fitting a wide variety of people because it takes a lot of that out of the equation. The shape of the curvature of the rami is less important with a seat like this because of the idea behind the design, which is that you sit up on these rearward rearward shelf, if you like, on the back of the seat, and it elevates your perineum and the midsection of your gentlemen's or ladies' parts, shall we say, off the seat. That's the idea. So if you find no SMPs that feel great, one of these is usually the next move, and the person sits on it and goes, there we go. That's solving a lot of my groin issues. These things are really good for people with recurrent perineum problems, and because they are polar opposite to the SMPs, if you can't find a good SMP that works for you, or you've got persistent perineum numbness issues, an SQ Labs 612 or 611 Active is my go-to road saddle for that particular thing. And these are really good. They come in 5 different widths to suit different shape, different width sit bones. And these are fantastic for problem solving if you've got recurrent perineum problems.
Okay.
So yeah, big ups for these guys as well. Now we move into another, like a polar opposite end of the spectrum here. This is some of the stuff which I use a lot of the time with essentially shoe modification to add shims to people's feet or to change their cleat position really significantly. So these are a whole bunch of different products made by different companies. Now I'll start with probably my favourite one, or this is a tough call actually. Probably my favourite is Ronan's new, this is a company called Form Bike Fitting Products based out of the UK. This is a Speedplay extender plate, which I've actually got on the bottom of my shoes here. That's what it looks like on the bottom of a Bont. And essentially these things allow us, since Wahoo stopped making these, once they got bought out by Wahoo, Speedplay used to make these, but once they got bought out, they stopped making them. These allow us to pull the Speedplay cleat back massively on the shoe, and this one is very nifty. It has a second set of bolt locations, so you can actually alter the person's Q factor really significantly to move their feet wider apart or closer together with this one product. This thing is a fantastic piece of gear.
Okay.
I used a pair of these last week for a girl with hypermobile ankles who was really unstable on the bike and uncomfortable, and she was a massive heel dropper. Chucked a set of these on to pull the cleat back to around 35 millimeters behind the ball of her feet. Solved a lot of the problems straight away. So these are fantastic, really well made, and yeah, so well done, Form Bike Fitting Products. Another one of those, made by the same company. We've spoken about this one before briefly. This is their mountain bike shim, made by Form as well, and this is a stackable 2-bolt cleat shim, essentially for a mountain bike system. This allows me to change.
SPD?
This is for SPD, Crank Brothers, Egg Beaters.
Yeah, a lot of road cyclists are on SPDs.
I have heard that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's quite a strong cult, actually.
We look down on them, but but they are out there. Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a perfectly functional cleat system. This is the way to shim your leg if you've got a leg length discrepancy using a 2-bolt system. So the piece of gear has saved my butt on many occasions trying to solve one-sided knee pain issues with people who want to use a 2-bolt system. So well done, Form Bike Fitting Products. Honourable mentions. This is a 3-bolt extender plate made by midfootcycling.com, Patro cleats, known by another name. These things allow us to do the same as the Speedplay one, to pull the cleat back significantly to suit people who are massive heel droppers, who've got really bad circulation in their feet and they need to run nearly a midfoot cleat position to get rid of their foot problems. These are also really, really good. They have some limitations, but as a much easier, quicker way than re-drilling the bottom of the shoes to move the cleat back, which I do occasionally, these really, really good. A more oddball one, which a lot of you won't have ever seen. This is a machined base plate out of a solid block of billet aluminium. These are made by Steve Hogg. Well, made by Steve Hogg's machinist, and we buy them off Steve. And these essentially are an 8mm thick Speedplay base plate. Now, why would you want one of those? You want one of these if you've got a leg length difference of up over 10 or 12 millimeters and you're using Speedplays. For example, I have one of the local doctors up here, a sports medicine doctor who I know really well, has a 15mm shim underneath his foot because he's very wonky. And we are going to use a set of these essentially to be able to stack shims up on top of this and give you lots and lots of thread engagement for the screw that goes through. So because this is 8mm thick, there's 8mm of thread engagement. So these are fantastic if you're using Speedplays and you've got an enormous leg length difference. This is a very boutique product, but it is available through Steve Hogg's website. And without these, for those clients of mine with massive leg length differences, we would have some trouble accommodating them. So this has made my life a lot easier.
So was that all one, or was that...
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
We'll count those as 4.
Okay.
G8 insoles.
So this is number 5.
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. We might be up to 6. G8 insoles. These are fantastic. Adjustable, you can move the arch module around, you can change the height of it. Just a great system that suits a massive wide variety of people. So, a little bit on the expensive side, but it's about as custom as you can get without actually going to a custom insole. These things have saved my butt many times. Lake shoes. for wide feet. Now this is a standard width, this is an old Lake 237 that I've had for a very long time. It's got a very wide toe box and this is the standard width one. The wide ones are spectacularly wide, and if you've got people with a really broad forefoot or bunions or an odd shaped toe box area, where their toes don't taper away normally, they've got like a really squared toe taper, these things are fantastic. Just one of the most accommodating wide toe box shoes on the market. So for people with really broad feet, Lake shoes. This is the 237, which has been superseded by the 238, which is a fantastic shoe as well, which I've got a pair of. If you've got really, really, really odd feet, have a look at the CX241, which has a very, very accommodating toe box. If you've got bunions or anything like that, that shoe is just brilliant for people with odd feet, shall we say. Let's talk about seat posts. We'll get some close-ups of this. The seat post that's on that bike behind me is a zero offset post with a front and rear bolt, which makes it infinitely angle adjustable. So we won't talk about specific brands too much, but any seat post which is designed this way is fantastic. They don't slip. They're infinitely angle adjustable in tiny, tiny increments. If you want to change the seat angle by half a degree, you loosen one of the bolts a quarter of a turn, tighten the other bolt a quarter of a turn, and it can change the angle in really, really minute ways without having to do, for example, what you might have to do on, say, a Factor Ostro seat post or a Trek seat post. Any seat post where there is two conical kind of cones which grip in with a bolt that goes through them, they're going to go on my most hated list, right. But this is the most lovely. So those things are a nightmare to change the angle. Something like this behind me, the classic one that we all know is the Thompson seat post, been around for 20, 30 years, with two bolts at the front and the rear, makes it infinitely angle adjustable, never slips. Let's have more of these, because these types of seat posts are just the best. They're light, they're strong, they never slip. Yeah, big ups for them.
Okay.
Last but not least, and I wasn't sure about putting this one in because this is not really a bar, this is not really a thing that I would use to problem solve, but the bar that's on this bike behind me, which is a Coefficient Wave RR bar, this is a fantastic product.
Is this the one we did a bit of content on? You can point to it up there.
Fantastic. We can point to that video link here. It's a fantastic bar. It just has so many different hand positions. It's aerodynamic, it's comfortable, it's stiff, it has an integrated Garmin mount. It's just the best handlebar I've ever seen. And there's an honourable mention going here to an Australian company, I think it bloke's down in Adelaide, called Aero Pro as well. Yeah, these things are a similar sort of design where the bar kicks up and sweeps back a bit, only available in a couple of different sizes, much cheaper than the Coefficient bar. Not as many design features, but has that similar sort of sweeping top. I've been recommending those for years before the Wave bar came out, and this is sort of an evolution which I think is probably more of a performance-orientated one compared to the Aero Pro one, but a really, really good bar design, both of them. There's some sort of back and forth with the patents between those two, and I'm not really sure who's in the right and who's in the wrong, so I'm going to stay out of that. Yep. But those style of bars are really, really, really good. They are much better for your wrists, really comfortable, and yeah, the Coefficient bar, yeah, that's a fantastic piece of gear. So I think we're up to about 9 there, and there's a few others, but which are less important.
I would have said, like, with you, the shim would have its own standalone. You've kind of used it with this one here. I guess you've talked about it, but to me, you love shims, and you put me on a shim, and it changed my rocking for good.
True. Yeah, look, I guess you could put an honourable mention in there for a leg length shim. Now, some of these are shim systems, admittedly, but yeah, at its base level, a leg length shim system would probably have to sneak in there, I would say. It's probably a good call, Cam.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah. But we've got 8 or 9 or 10 there, so they're my most loved products, the stuff I use every day that just enable me to solve problems that if these products didn't exist, I would have a lot more difficulty doing what I do.
Okay, thank you.
So thanks to everyone.